It's a great honor to have had an entire issue of Amerasia Journal devoted to some of my writings, as well as just some wonderful commentaries by some of the people who are here today. It was exactly 40 years ago, this month in May, that I was in my very first Asian American Studies class. It was the very first Asian American Studies class at Yale. Lowell Chun-Hoon, who was from Honolulu, Hawaii, we were very good friends, and Lowell and I decided, boy, it'd be a great thing if this field that is just beginning to start, called Asian American Studies, could have a journal. So Lowell and I made this pact, in May, that we would each go and work during the summer and raise $500 each, and with this $1,000 that we would start this journal in the fall. Lowell was very good about things, and he went and raised $1,000. Put out our very, very first issue of Amerasia Journal in January of 1971, and we put out one more issue before we graduated. I happen to know people here at UCLA, talented undergraduate students who their tradition here just continues in terms of Asian American activists. And they had formed the Asian American Studies Center, proposed it along with some faculty members, some administrators, and alumni, and community people in 1969. So I asked one of the assistant directors at that time, I said, you guys have set up a research center. Don't you guys want a journal? And I somehow was able to convince them that it'd be a great thing to move this journal from New Haven, in which we knew we could not survive, to Los Angeles here, and to the Asian American Studies Center. And the Study Center itself embraced it and has supported the journal for these past 40 years. This wonderful tribute, that special issue of the journal, contains four articles that I've written over the years. One of the pieces deals with my tenure struggle, which happened 21 years ago. It actually led to a special issue of Amerasia Journal, and some of the pieces in there, including my own sort of commentary of sort of why I decided to fight for tenure, is included. But it was an extraordinary sort of social movement that went on for 3 years and involved not only the Asian American community but many other communities. Students in particular at many other campuses just found it just a very, very instructive kind of piece to read. I have another piece in there that describes sort of my view of Asian American politics, and my training is as a political scientist, and ever since my undergraduate years, I've always thought that the study of minority politics by American political scientists was too limited, that all we looked at was voting and things that happened domestically. And I always took a much broader view of Asian American politics, that there are a lot of things that fell or extended beyond domestic politics, that really involved international politics, transnational politics, and so forth. And also a lot of politics that one could not sort of confine just to voting and to legislatures and so forth. And things like social movements, like labor movements and so forth, are part of sort of how I sort of more broadly look at Asian American politics. A third article looks at why it is that beginning in the late 1960s, that the Japanese American community, at a time when it seemed like the mass media and scholars and public policy people were saying that Japanese Americans, Chinese Americans, and other Asian Americans were a successful minority, that they were model minorities, that suddenly after decades of such demonizing sort of stereotypes and portrayals of Asian Americans, that suddenly they were kind of given a more positive view. But why in that context that Japanese Americans decide that they want to launch this movement to get a national apology and to seek monetary reparations for what happened to them during World War II? And then finally, the sort of opening piece for this entire issue is an article, one of my very, very first articles that I wrote, and it's now 35 years old, and it's an article called "In Search of a New Paradigm, Minorities in the Context of International Politics." And it essentially looks at two questions, why, in what ways international politics affects minority groups, and second, ways in which minority populations, groups themselves, transcend domestic sort of political boundaries and engage in international kinds of activities. It's a piece that is based on a lot of sort of library research. It also describes a class that I taught here at UCLA, which had all student activists on campus, not only Asian American, but Chicano, African American, American Jewish, Native American, and so forth. And this was an exploration of this whole question of how international politics of various forms affects minority populations here, and ways in which minorities themselves engage in international politics. And one of my students, well, maybe I had some impact on him, but he was one of the leaders of MECHA, and he is currently the mayor of Los Angeles. And but it was a wonderful experience, and the paper itself kind of deals with both teaching and doing research on this topic of minorities in the context of international politics.